Okay, all right. So here we are again. This is Clay. This is another video. We're going to be talking about specifically raising your standards when it comes to relationships and dating. So this is building off of what we talked about last week, or yesterday rather. I'm getting my words jumbled up. But this is building off of what we talked about yesterday, which is that a lot of people are approaching the whole issue of relationships and dating in the wrong way. They're just sort of essentially going about their life and then just sort of stumbling into some sort of relationship, and then they'll fight to the death to try and make that relationship work without ever actually stopping and saying, hey, is this really the relationship that I should be in? Is this really a relationship that's actually good for me to be in? And instead of just trying to make these relationships work, although that we can definitely do that, I want to really help people out there set themselves up from the beginning to have great high quality relationships. And so one of the things that you need to do in order to do that is to start raising your standards when it comes to the kind of relationship that you're going to have or the kind of people that you're going to be dating, okay? And this is really not the way that most people unfortunately approach relationships, right? Like I said, people just kind of drift through their life doing whatever, and then they meet somebody, and then they just cling on for dear life and hope that that relationship works out. And I totally get it. It can be really hard to be single. It can be difficult to want to be in a relationship with somebody, and then when somebody comes along and they're attractive, then you just say, hey, yeah, this is it. I'm going to make it work. But there should hopefully be a little bit more in your selection process for a partner or relationship than, hey, is this person attractive? And you should have a certain set of criteria that you're looking for when it comes to a potential partner. And that's really what raising your standards is really all about. So let's look at what it takes to actually raise your standards a little bit more. So first and foremost, if you want to raise your standards, you need to really start by loving yourself, self-love. I know a lot of people talk about self-love these days. It's pretty, in vogue to do that sort of thing. But I think self-love is a little bit misunderstood by a lot of people. A lot of people will take the idea of self-love and think that it means, oh, you just need to spoil yourself. You just need to enjoy chocolates and bubble baths and, nice glasses of wine and stuff like that. And sure, that is definitely one aspect of self-love. A lot of people are just so used to beating themselves down and depriving themselves that sometimes it can actually be really nice to give yourself something pleasant in your life. But self-love is about a whole lot more than just bubble baths and chocolates. It's also about really loving yourself enough to make those hard choices, really loving yourself enough to step into discomfort, to do something that might be for your own good, but might be a little bit uncomfortable, such as leaving a relationship that's not really in your best interest, or leaving a job or a career that maybe isn't taking you where you want to go, or doing other things that might push you out of your comfort zone, like loving yourself enough to get in shape or to start exercising or to start eating healthier or whatever it might be. That's one of the main things with self-love. And how this relates to raising your standards is, if you know the kind of person that you want to be with, can you love yourself enough to not settle for less? And this brings us into the second thing, which is not settling for less. So if you know what you want and you love yourself enough to actually allow yourself to be open to getting that in your life, such as a certain type of partner, a certain type of relationship or something like that, are you willing to not settle for less? So for example, if you want to be in a relationship with somebody who's really committed to you, then are you willing to settle for somebody who maybe cheats on you, maybe somebody who flirts with other people when you're not around, or worse yet, even does flirt with people when you are around? This would be an example of settling for less. And that's not an act of self-love. It's really saying, like, hey, I know that this is what I want, but this is what I have right now, and I really, I shouldn't be picky. I should just settle for this. This is the best that I can do. Who am I to ask for something more? Who am I to ask for somebody who's willing to commit to me? And so self-love compounded with not settling for less is definitely a great way to go about doing all of this. So you absolutely need to know what you want. You need to know what sort of standards you're setting for yourself. You want to know the kind of relationship or the kind of person that you want to be in a relationship with. And then you need to not settle for less. And for a lot of people, this can be difficult because, we do end up meeting these people in our lives, and you might end up dating somebody, you might end up even being in a relationship with somebody, and a lot of people want to stay in these relationships even though they're not in alignment with their values, even though they're not in alignment with what they truly want, because they think, oh well, it's better to be in any relationship than it is to be single, right? If I can just be in a relationship, even though it's not the best one, I can just be in a relationship for now. And then when the right person comes along later, it's like, see ya, I'm out of here, I'm gonna go date that person, right? But it's not exactly that straightforward and simple. Because going back to our example, if you wanted to be in a relationship with somebody who is really committed to you, really trusting of you, not gonna cheat on you or something like that, would that person really want to be with you if you were in a relationship with somebody else and you had to cheat on that somebody else in order to be with them? Probably not, right? Probably not. So you have to look at this as a two-way street as well too. And this brings us to the third point, which is that in order to raise your standards, you need to know what you want, love yourself, and not settle for less. But then you also need to level up yourself as well too, because if you want to be with a higher caliber of person, you want to make sure that you're bringing the best of yourself to relationships or dating that other person, so that that person can look at you and say, yep, that is the person I want to be in a relationship with, right there, right? And so if you can love yourself enough to really maximize your own life, by doing things like exercising, eating healthy, doing things that are meaningful to you for career or work, doing things that are meaningful for you when it comes to your spare time, your free time, not putting up with certain types of behaviors that just don't suit you in your personal life, love life, or just, with your friends or other people that you may know in your life. These are all great ways to start doing this. And as you start doing this, as you start doing these three things, the, self-love, the not settling for less, and the actual leveling yourself up, you will notice that you start to raise the standards of the people that you surround yourself with. And you will notice that as you do this, you'll start to be drawn to a different type of person when it comes to dating and relationships. And as this happens, you'll suddenly lose interest in dating other types of people. And this is something that I can say from personal experience. After I got out of my relationship with my ex, my big ex that I was in a relationship with for 7 years, I started to feel this almost magnetic pull towards being dating or an urge to be with a certain type of woman. And I quickly realized that this was a very familiar dynamic that was a very similar dynamic to the one that I had with my ex, where there was a lot of not taking responsibility for your own emotions, there was a lot of neediness, there was a lot of weird emotional stuff, and I could have just said, oh, well, this feels familiar, this feels good, let me just go with this and we just date this person, but I didn't. Thankfully, I did not, and I realized that I needed to date a different type of person. And at that particular point in time, I didn't have the awareness to say, oh, I need to raise my standards, but I realized that I needed to go after a different type of person when it came to my my love life and my relationship. So, and as this happened, I started to attract a different type of person to me because, if you have this habit of constantly being drawn to certain types of people, those certain types of people are also going to be drawn to you. And as you start to change yourself, you'll start to change the people that are attracted to you, and you'll start to change the people that you are attracted to yourself. And as this happens, an entire new world of dating possibilities will start to open up in front of you. Okay, so if this is something that you want to learn a little bit more about, I also want to remind you that we have our book, Be Loved for Who You Are, over at modernlove.life/book. That's over at modernlove.life/book. You can go ahead and get the Be Loved for Who You Are book for a astronomical $7 US. You also get a free copy of another book I wrote called The Self-Esteem Solution, both of which will work together to kind of help you with all of this raising your standards in love and dating kind of stuff. So it's definitely something you might want to check out. Anyway, with that being said, let's see if we have a couple of questions or comments. I don't want to make this video too long, but if we can have some interesting ones. What if self-love is not the problem? Well, I don't know what the problem might be. Let's see. Somebody is asking my wife Mika, who's in the comments here, how the baby is. Well, I don't know how the baby is today because I'm at work, but maybe Mika could answer that. But overall, she's a really nice baby. She's very, very, very nice. I don't know. One of these days, I should really bring her on one of these videos. For a while, I had this apprehension, like, oh, should I put her on video? Should I put her on social media, or should I not do that? And I don't know. I think I'm okay with it. It's like really hard because, like, when you're somebody like my age, you didn't grow up in this world with the internet and social media and all of that, and now suddenly we have all of this stuff, and it's like, okay, how do I go about integrating this into my child's life? Like, when's the right time to like give her a Facebook account? When's the right time to give her a cell phone? And like, I don't know, because like the first time I had a cell phone, I was 22 years old, 21 or 22 years old. But I don't think that most people wait that long these days. Let's see if we have any other questions. How do I get my ex to give me back my stuff if he keeps canceling on me? Well, if you don't want to get back together with your ex any longer, then don't worry about the emotional connection, okay? If you just want your stuff back, then by all means do that. If you need to get law enforcement involved, then go ahead and do that. Just know that is probably not going to create a positive emotional connection. So if you are no longer interested in getting back together, then by all means, burn any bridges necessary to get your stuff back. If you are interested in getting back together, really depends on kind of where the emotional connection is at. You know, if he's like just not talking to you at all, then that's something different than if he is talking to you, but for some reason the handoff just doesn't seem to happen. Let's see if we have any other questions. Self-love is being totally committed to yourself and your well-being, and self-confidence comes from learning to trust yourself. Yeah, these are good comments, guys. Okay, so with that being said, I'm just going to end this live stream, but once again, if you want to get that book, it's over at modernlove.life/book, modernlove.life/book. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys tomorrow with another one of these videos. Please take care.